The words that follow are from a letter composed by the Palestine Solidarity Campaign to the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy. The letter is entitled, "Britain must demand Israel abide by the ceasefire agreement and lift the siege of Gaza and end its complicity in Israel's ongoing attacks on Palestinians." The letter goes on to say, "The situation in Palestine remains extremely urgent. Israel has reimposed a total blockade on all aid to the Gaza Strip, with potentially devastating consequences. It is refusing to implement the second phase of the ceasefire agreement, which would see a complete withdrawal of the Israeli military. Instead, it is using the threat of starvation in an attempt to impose new terms in alliance with the US government. The British government has a clear responsibility to act to protect the fragile ceasefire agreement and bring about Israel's compliance with international law. It must call on Israel to abide by the terms of the ceasefire agreement and enter negotiations on the implementation of the second phase. It must demand the complete and permanent lifting of Israel's unlawful siege on the Gaza Strip. And thirdly, it must implement a comprehensive embargo on all arms trade with Israel. Israel's blockade on Gaza is an extension of the genocide that it has perpetrated since October 2023, which has seen the International Criminal Court issue arrest warrants for senior Israeli leaders for war crimes and crimes against humanity, including using starvation as a method of warfare. Almost all of Gaza's residents are dependent on aid and experiencing shortages of food and essential medicines. Last week, 7 newborn babies died of hypothermia in Gaza due to a lack of adequate supplies. Alongside blocking aid, Israel has killed a number of Palestinians in Gaza through sniper fire and drone strikes in recent days, in violation of the ceasefire agreement. At least 116 Palestinians in Gaza have been killed by Israel since the ceasefire came into effect. In addition, Israel has intensified its military invasions in the illegally occupied West Bank, forcibly displacing the residents of 3 refugee camps and causing large-scale destruction of civilian infrastructure. The Israeli military has used armoured tanks to invade Jenin refugee camp, the first time they've been used in the West Bank in 20 years. This year alone, Israel has killed over 70 Palestinians in the West Bank, including 17 children. The British government is obliged not to render aid and assistance to Israel's military occupation, which the International Court of Justice has ruled unlawful in its entirety. It must end Britain's complicity in Israel's grave violations of international law by imposing an embargo on all arms trade with Israel. The government must use every tool at its disposal to ensure Israel abides by the ceasefire agreement, lifts the siege of Gaza, and ends its militarized attacks on Palestinians. So ends this letter. If you'd like to send a copy of this letter to David Lammy, there is a link under the video that you can use to do so.